The Brandon Peters Show may contain explicit language and detailed plot points. For more information on the show, stay tuned to the end of the episode. And now, here's Brandon.
Welcome back to Old Space Show. I'm Brandon, and this is my companion, Tony.
Greetings, humans.
All right, they greet you back. All right. This series of Old Space Show follows the episode-by-episode time-traveling, body-hopping exploits of the first season of Quantum Leap. Today, we'll be talking about the 7th episode, The Color of Truth. August 8th, 1955, Sam leaps into Jesse Tyler, an aged black man living in the South prior to the Civil Rights Movement. Sam's modern-day racial attitudes cause consternation and unrest among the townsfolk, leading to brutal consequences. And while Sam's true mission is to save the life of his elderly white employer, Ms. Melanie Trafford, Sam also believes he has been sent to initiate the cause of civil rights in the town. This is directed by Michael Vajar, written by Deborah Pratt, starring Scott Bakula and Dean Stockwell, with guest stars Susan French, Kimberly Bailey, Royce D. Applegate, and Michael D. Roberts. Mr. Vajar, I don't know how it's pronounced, but here we go with his resume. 11 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise, 13 episodes of Star Trek Voyager, 7 episodes of Deep Space Nine, 1 episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. He did 14 episodes of Babylon 5, Lois and Clark, The X-Files, RoboCop, MacGyver, Walker, Texas Ranger, Zorro, Mission Impossible from the 80s, Magnum P.I., Scarecrow, Mr. King, A-Team, Simon and Simon, Quincy, Fantasy Island, Incredible Hulk, Cagney, and Lacey. Okay, bud, your you
Right.
have credentials.
You got it. You're good.
There's a TV Hall of Fame plaque with his name on it, right? Or the genre TV Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Surprised I haven't met him at a convention recently. It sounds like he's got the moves there for sure. So
I was just looking, I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, we did more Star Trek. All the Star Treks that were from the relaunch, and just, of course, he's on the Belisario ticket with Magnum and other shows like that.
Well, you hear his name and you're like, well, he's just going for name recognition. You're like, oh, it's Michael Bay. No, he's doing good for himself for sure. He's definitely been around.
Yeah, wow, just impressive. And I didn't look at which particular episodes because I'm sure he's done some of the favorite ones. But this one of Quantum Leap, he directs with where we have Sam going into the body of a black man in the wrong time to do so. And this one is we talk about movies influencing it, Driving Miss Daisy, but not the movie. The play was big at this time. The movie came out the same year. So
that's right. So kind of a common misconception. People are like, well, yeah, they definitely did it because of that. And I don't think so. Like you said, the story existed as a play. So they obviously were aware of it. Whether they were aware a movie was coming out later that year, I don't know. But yeah, definitely it seems like towards the end of this season here in general, they started to tackle some of these bigger questions. They've never really shied away, as we've discussed in previous episodes here. They haven't really shied away from big discussions and big themes, but here towards the end, we get the racial card. Coming up here, we're going to get some, some stuff about gender equality and, spousal abuse and things like that. So, but yeah, they're definitely hitting some of these big ticket questions that obviously still resonate today, which is a very cool thing. When I was doing the rewatch of this episode, just last week to prepare, I was watching it on the Roku channel, and my wife who was actually born after this episode aired,
Yeah.
sat down about 5 minutes in and was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm doing it for the for the podcast recording." And within 5 minutes, she was all in. Like, she didn't leave. She
Yeah.
was engaged in the story, and she was like, "Let's go on in the next episode." She's like, "This is great." So yeah, it's definitely one of those things that resonates still to
Yeah.
this day, which is a testament to Belisario and what the creative team created.
Yeah, and it doesn't. I mean, they don't hold back any punches with their writing too. There's safe ways to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, this one freely uses the N-word in it. Isn't afraid to hit on any point that you might think of, and the thing, like, I've complained, like, there was the Jackie Robinson movie with Chadwick Boseman, 42, where I thought felt too kind for its era to.
Yeah.
Granted, it's a family movie, but there's a little bit of missed opportunity to show how tough it was for Jackie Robinson. While it does show it being tough, I know from historical documents and stuff, it was a lot harder on him.
Well, we're recording this episode here just a couple of weeks after the end of Disney's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is another show that has addressed this information head on, but at the same time, never once did they use the term racism in that show. So Disney, for as much as they are doing great for addressing this, they've also received a little bit of flack from folks who have said, you know what, you were a little, kind is the right word, maybe, kind of treating with a little bit of rose-colored glasses there, whereas this one, like you said, does not shy away. They put the words right out there. In fact, I think even Sam at one point says to Miss Melanie, because Miss Melanie says, why don't you like the word Negro? And he said, well, it's a little too close to another word that, has negative connotations. And you could tell that she didn't really think about it in that aspect. And obviously no one did at that time, until things started to change. So,
well, and that's, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, like one of the problems has been, it's been a lot of talk and not showing and not no experience. It's just been lip servicing the hot button topics and stuff, and this is where they actually show you and give you an event and really play into things, and I think a lot of what helps this episode hold up too, and it's surprising, just show what quality of Quantum Leap is. And they, as I mentioned, they're not afraid to hit certain parts, but Bakula's performance is what really makes this one be okay. And granted, I'm a white guy talking about it. This is where I'm coming from on this.
Sure.
If a listener disagrees, and I'm here to listen and be told I'm wrong, I am not against that. But from my perspective here, Bakula being put in the body of a black man and just giving his performance as Sam Beckett, and not trying to put on some sort of dialect, some sort of voice, or trying to act a certain way. He just plays it like a frickin' person rather than a caricature. Really adds and helps to this, and shows that who Sam is, who Bakula is as an actor, who this production team is as players, because that could have gone horribly wrong.
Oh, absolutely. 100%. And that's kind of the genesis of the driving force of the plot is it's, Sam's obviously that he doesn't know. He literally, when he leaps into the body of Jesse, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know any different. So when he sits down at the counter, he literally doesn't know that he's doing anything wrong, and so I think that, like you said, that kind of spilled over where, he didn't need to do any sort of characterization or anything like that, because, he literally was showing the audience that, hey, this is, my perception is nothing's wrong, but I'm seeing for the first time for real what some of this is like. And just like I'm obviously a white person watching this show, so I can't speak directly, but it did feel to me, it had that sense of realism, like you literally, as Sam and as me, as a white person, you literally don't know, you have no idea what it's like, and they were trying to give us as much of a slice of that realism as they possibly could.
Yeah, and it's not like Sam needs convincing. As they bring us in a character, he comes from a place of being upset by it all and stuff. And another thing is none of the characters that are family or friends of Jesse. That's friends of Jesse react like, why are you talking like they don't he's just Jesse and how he speaks and stuff, and that's good that they don't do
Yes.
that. And then he's. And like a lot of times when he jumps in, he thinks he's there for a much bigger cause than maybe a simpler one that he's supposed to, because he thinks he's supposed to change the town in one day or the 1 week or where he's at. And that's his goals can tend to be a little smaller, which his goal in this one is just a start, overall, because he's supposedly supposed to stop her from being hit by a train. Louis he gets her to just treat him less servant-like, more, and has him sit with her. We go back to the beginning with this, back in the cafe, instead of picking up the sandwich, they have lunch together there.
Right.
Despite the despising of the people around them.
It feels like it was meant to be like, obviously, the prequel, which is what Al referenced as well. But in 4 or 5 months from that point in time is when the rights movement really started in full throttle with Dr. Martin Luther King and things like that. But this was in fact, I think Al said, he's like, you are not meant to be the catalyst of the the big change, but this was a start. This was a chance to show that attitudes can change in a much smaller bubble, as opposed to a nationwide thing. I almost think that's one of the morals of the story they were trying to tell, is that you can make a difference as one person. You don't have to wait for a wide scale change to make it okay for you to feel like you can change. You can just do it yourself.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And Al comes from experience. He mentions in here that he was involved in the civil rights movement, and he talks about being beaten during marches and seeing good friends and people arrested during them. So he's involved, but he's trying to keep Sam he knows from experience to share with Sam and to know and to let Sam know what his place is as a white man in all this, despite being in the body of a black man.
Yeah, good old Al. I absolutely have been enjoying the first season, but my biggest, if I had to nitpick on the show, my biggest thing is that Al is like the Swiss Army knife of the show. Like every time Sam, I used to be a pilot. Oh yeah, I used to do the civil rights. Next episode we're going to talk about. Oh yeah, I used to drag race cars. I'm like, anything Sam needed, Al conveniently did it very well. Apparently, so.
Very true. No, it's very true. But I love Dean Stockwell, and the show's got that conceit, and among many, but it's the way they dive into stuff and such rich material and are able to give you a nice, fully enclosed story every week. Like, it's amazing. They jump into Emmy Award nomination territory like almost weekly sometimes with this show.
Absolutely. Well, in this episode, I was, reading up on some of our, trivia and indicia and things like that. And the writer of the show, Deborah Pratt, of course, who's a big piece of the entire series, she won a Women in Film Award for Best Writing for a Drama Series with this episode. So the show very early on was winning awards, winning accolades. Obviously, they were doing much more right than wrong. And, just like we just talked about, it still resonates to this day and everything. So yeah, it's an absolutely, it's a well-produced show from top to bottom, and it shows in these early episodes.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And this is a pinnacle episode too that I think people think of when they think of Quantum Leap. They remember him staring at himself in the mirror through it all, and this is as good as watching some pokey Time to Kill movie, even with less time and a probably more sturdier message with less cheese to it. That can happen, and I always love, like, when you go back to these things and just seeing how ridiculous the racist white hillbillies are, like, in things, and just like you're just like, oh my god, and it's sad, but at the same time, like, look how stupid you all look, and and there's people that are doing things in our society nowadays, still, and in years where we reflect and be like, I knew that, but like I didn't, I of course was born in 1982, so I didn't see any of this or have this, but now in my lifetime, for what I've seen, we're going to be seeing that again with certain things. So
you're not wrong. Yeah. I mean, when you watch it, you're like this, your first reaction is that it feels like such a caricature, right? You're like, oh, this is extreme, and has been blown up and, made bigger than it is for the TV show. But then you stop and think about it, and you're like, no, it's really not. Like, this is literally, I mean, I've never been to a place like, was it Mud Dog, Alabama? Is that the city that this place took place in?
Right,
But yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely aware that places like this do seriously exist, and it's one of those things, and I'm not detracting or making light of or saying that generally that the South or the quote unquote deep South is all bad or whatever. But places like this and people like this do exist. Fortunately, they are in hopefully overall in the nation they are in the minority, obviously, of attitudes and things like that. But they definitely exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with this as reference, when you see nowadays, you're like, oh man, oh wow, people really can get to that place, and it's
right. It's impressively unfortunate, is what they said. So
exactly. Some more like fun things about this episode, I guess. This is the Back to the Future Hill Valley set. That they filmed some on, which is sadly no longer with us. It burned down. But yeah, Hill Valley and Gremlins is the same as Hill Valley. And I guess some of these sets were used on the Dukes of Hazzard back in the day as well.
That's right. Yeah. It's interesting. It's kind of cool. I definitely when Sam would step out of the diner, and you could tell that it was kind of that square vibe. I kind of got that vibe. I'm like, this seems real familiar, especially obviously in a 1955 setting. I mean, this literally takes place in 1955, which that was the Back to the Future destination was that exact same year. So. Weirdly, not only does this one take place in 1955, but it takes place on August 8th, 1955, which that's a date that not only sticks out to me personally because that's my mom and my sister's birthday, but this is one of 3 episodes that takes place on August 8th in the series. It's so weird. I don't know if this is
Deborah Pratt, all written by Deborah Pratt. Yeah.
I don't know if that's a coincidence. I haven't read enough to see if that's
maybe it's like her calling card or something.
I did read that someone said on one of the trivia things that August 8th is actually Sam's birthday. I don't know if he ever referenced that in the series, but I guess so. It's like this one in 1955, Sam was 2 years old.
Right.
So this I guess was his birthday. I haven't seen if that's corroborated, but I read that online in one of those trivia things. So
gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Speaking of Sam, he is excited in a weird way with being in the body of a black man because he's now opens his mind to more possibilities of who he could leap into, which is something I just think like, oh wow, okay, now they're doing this. I'm like, oh yeah, well, I guess as him, he was maybe not expecting to be able to leap into someone of a different race. I don't.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice reminder that he is at heart, first and foremost, a scientist, literally going through a science experiment. Obviously, it's turned into a very humanistic thing where every week he has to really put on his empathetic and human side and solve some sort of an issue, some sort of humanitarian issue, big or small. But yeah, it's a nice reminder that he definitely he started leaping to begin with because he is a quantum physicist and he was testing a theory of, can I go back in time into a person? So this probably is one of those things where he's still in his mind gathering data and going through the motions, even though he's like, oh crap, something's gone wrong, and I'm not going back to the lab anytime soon. So
yeah, no, exactly. It's a lifetime experiment now. I also like they point out about the records of black people from back in the day. They have information missing because white people weren't keeping track of them. They're destroying their records, their family heirlooms, document like. Things run really deep.
I mean, it does. It was it was cringeworthy both for my wife and I when, even when something as simple as Sam stopping to get a drink at a fountain and you see the sign that says whites only on top of it. And you're like, oh my God, this was really a thing. And this is like 70 years ago. Like, you try to pretend like it's some far off thing, but my parents were alive at that time. My grandparents, like this is only a couple of generations removed from this.
Yeah.
Really
when this episode aired,
stuff.
It was 34 years.
Right.
Since like it was really, it's crazy. It's ridiculous, like sad, like all sorts of like just infuriating, like all sorts of emotions run through it. Just seeing that stupid stuff and like just the hospital, like we won't treat humans because like that was, oh my gosh, that was nuts. But and then
it's crazy.
And you got that town, the white cop guy that's like, he's nice, but if his hating buddies are getting upset, then he's gonna have to do so. Like he's the guy who thinks he's fair, and you're just as bad as the others.
Well, and it was such a subtle twist too. They didn't make a big deal out of it when Sam as Jesse first said, well, these boys are doing this, and it ended up being that one of the boys was the sheriff's son. So obviously not only did he want to take it easy on them, but they never really dug too deep into that particular aspect of where it starts. Is this just the son's attitude because of his life? Obviously his life experiences are intertwined with his father. So, the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree sometimes. So,
True.
So you have to feel like, some of the stuff came from the dad, obviously. So that was an interesting dynamic as well. So.
Yeah, definitely. And we also get our first true oh boy cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's right. Right at the very end. Because what Sam said it in the first episode when he looked in the mirror as the baseball player, but that was more of an aside. But yeah, this is where it really starts at the end. The oh boy, and it's like
he's drag racing in a car, and he looks, and he's a teenage kid with a bunch of pimples. And
so funny, very, very interesting. So yeah, that was I guess this was the first episode. This I didn't learn until also looking at some of the trivia stuff, but this episode was the first time that NBC had moved the series around in their lineup. It started out as a Friday night 9 p.m. show, and I guess this was the first episode where it moved to Wednesdays at 10 p.m.
Too popular for that Friday slot.
I guess so. The Friday's always been a death slot, I suppose. But what Wednesday, I guess, is where the show spent most of its time and was most successful in the ratings. So whether it's almost like a chicken and the egg thing. Did it become popular because it moved there, or when it moved, was it great episodes like this that boosted its popularity with more people watching it on Wednesdays? I don't know the answer to that.
If you were moving nights, it was a good one to start with, and
that's true.
Like Quantum Leap and like the X-Files. Both started as Friday night shows and wound up getting out of there. Like because this was a mid-season replacement. They were going to burn it. I mean, it had a popular pilot movie, but they were like, is it really going to do something? Throw it on Friday. And
yep. It's some people, some properties like this one, like you said, X-Files make it out, and some, rest in peace.
Nowadays, streaming shows all drop on Friday, so
you're right. Well,
it's changed now with streaming. That's when they drop.
Right. Well, no one's staying up till 3 a.m. Eastern, which is midnight Pacific. I mean, some people are, but not me personally. But some people are.
Some people are. Those California people, now they have one on us. They used to have to. Oh no, gotta wait now. Which they actually have. I lived out there. They have channel. They get the earlier broadcasts from channels. There are ways to watch legally, to watch.
Right.
Because we would there would be like Showtime East, HBO East that you could watch. There was
sure. Well, I know it's different for I know it's different for live stuff. We went out to a trip to San Diego a couple of years ago, and I remember watching NFL football like 9:30 in the morning, and I'm like, oh my god, this is weird. But breakfast and football. But
I used to get up to go to a bar that opened at like 9 to watch football, and then
do what you got to do. So
yep. So all right, well. That'll do it for today. I think we've made right where other conversations about this episode once went wrong. Tony, tell people where they can leap to find your work.
Yeah, you can always come hang out with me at sciencefiction.com. We're always posting new and fun stuff about all things science fiction. If you want to get a hold of me personally, you can hop over to my website at tonyschaab.com or any of the social medias, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Instagrams, the whatever else is out there. I don't know, Plenty of Fish maybe. I don't think so, but probably not. But Tony Schaab at everywhere else there. So definitely not Plenty of Fish. Sorry to my wife.
All right. And how about Twitter and Instagram at Brandon4KUHD, written work of Why So Blue. There's more from the Brandon Peters Show this week, but from old space.
Oh boy.
Thank you for listening. The Brandon Peters Show is a Creative Zombie Studios production. Produced by Brad Shoemaker and Brandon Peters. Written and edited by Brandon Peters. Announcer vocals by Jessica Alsman. Theme song by Metavari. Web design and show art by Brad Shoemaker with Brandon Peters. All music and clips featured in the episode are property of their respective studios, and no infringement is intended. Additional information on this and other episodes at BrandonPetersShow.com. For any inquiries, press opportunities, or sponsorship, contact mail@brandonpetershow.com. The show is available on Apple Music, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are found.